My name's Todd. Welcome to the Laundry List, and we're back here with you. And been a couple weeks. Hope everyone's been well. Appreciate everyone's feedback, comments, and giving us suggestions for topics. And we're excited, and we're going to pursue some of those. Today we have a very special guest, somebody I've known since he was born. My son, Bond.
Hello.
We're very excited. Bond, welcome to the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Bond's an active listener and my number one supporter, critic, and overall advisor on the podcast.
I love calling you those Tuesday mornings to give you my feedback.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I do like feedback. So welcome to the podcast. And are you nervous?
I'm not nervous.
Not nervous. I like that.
You know, a little bit.
Actually, that double negative actually sounds good. Mm-hmm. I'm not nervous. I like that.
I mean, I'm excited to be here, but, you know, a little
uncertain.
A little nervous.
Well, welcome. And glad you finally agreed to come on. And I like it. It's just me and Bond today. Blake is not here. I think he's on a plane to New York, actually. So you got me and Bond, and we have a different format we're going to do today. We're going to ask each other some questions, and we both thought that was a good idea. We developed 5 questions, and that'll kind of lead into the conversation. So I would say, to break the ice, Bond, why don't you ask me your first question?
Okie dokie.
And then we'll just do a round robin. Then I'll ask you a question.
All right. Do you want an easy one for the first one?
Sure.
Okay.
Give me the softball.
What's one thing you've always wanted to do but haven't yet?
That's a good one. I would say the 2 things that I haven't done yet that really come to mind when you say that is really get good at guitar and like join a band and become fluent in Spanish.
Wow. Spanish.
Yeah. When you were about 4 or 5 years old, I took a Berlitz class for 6 months because, you know, mom's pretty decent in Spanish. And I was determined to do it. And then after like 5 or 6 months, I was actually getting decent and I started dreaming in Spanish, and then I just stopped.
Yeah.
But I would say becoming fluent in Spanish and becoming really proficient in guitar to where I can play by ear and play in a band. Those would be the 2 things that I'd really like to do.
Good answers.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I took Spanish for like 8 years in school, and I still...
You don't remember?
Nothing.
You got to use it.
Yeah.
You know, you use it or you lose it. All right, I'll just start from the top. What are your 1, 5, and 10-year personal goals? 1, 5, and 10-year personal goals.
1 year is definitely graduate school, right? On the edge, just about to finish in this spring. And then 5 year, I'd like to get more developed in business, you know, have more of a position that I'm, you know, a more, you know, impacted position in the business, and just learn more in business and do deals and meet people and become established basically in Phoenix. In 10 years, is to start a family. Definitely.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Kids?
Definitely. I'd like to have at least 2 kids. Up to like 5.
2 to 5.
That's the cutoff.
That's what Alex wants, 2 to 5. That's Alex. For all that you don't know, she's been on the podcast a bunch. That's my wife, and she wants 2 to 5 kids. And for you folks that don't know, I'm 78 years old, so it's going to be difficult, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, Robert De Niro just had a kid at like 75, so
yeah,
you're fine.
Right. Yeah, Mick Jagger, De Niro, Michael Douglas. There's a bunch of folks out there having kids in their 70s.
Mm-hmm. All right, you want me to go to another question?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. a little bit more of a tougher one. What drives you to get out of bed every morning? I mean, you're a successful businessman. You could stay home and do whatever you want the rest of your life. What gets you up out of that bed?
The first thing that comes to my mind is fear. Because I know if I don't get out of bed and get an emotion, I'll get depressed, I'll isolate, I'll get sad. And it's just like a downward slope. Like I know if I just don't leave the house, don't get out of bed, like it's not going to be good. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be good. And my friend Marty always tells me, Todd, motion takes care of the emotion. And I love when he says that because there are mornings where I'm just want to stay in bed, play with my puppies, not leave the house all day. And I know that that's not what works for me. I know I get up typically at 6:30 every morning, and I'm usually out of the house before 7 and moving because I have to move. And that motion takes care of the emotion definitely is applicable to me. Mm-hmm. There's some people that just are content and love being at home all day. I'm definitely not one of those people. I'm much more of a social creature. And I know for me, depression, anxiety, isolation takes place when I just, stay home all day. And the other thing that I think gets me up out of bed every morning is the excitement for the day. And that could be business, that could be doing hot yoga, that could be going to a AA meeting, it could be just driving around in my car listening to podcasts. I do that all the time. A lot of times I'll either drive around by myself or take my dog and just drive around for like 45 minutes and listen to podcasts, around, Camelback and Arcadia and all over the place and just really love it. It's like, I don't know, it's meditative for me. But that's a good question because I don't know sometimes why I get up, but I get up, I pray, and I usually write a gratitude list first thing in the morning and send that out to a bunch of people and just start connecting with people. And then those fears and those the anxiety that maybe was occurring when I first woke up just sort of dissipate once I get moving through the day.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. This is fun. This is like a tennis match. All right, this one's a little bit harder. What fears do you experience in your life today or in the past? What fears? Because we talk a lot on this podcast about, fear and how to deal with it, not just in relationships, but in general. Like, what fears come to your mind? And I work with a lot of guys in AA and ACA and just in general, and I always have them write a fears list. Like, give me 2 pages of all your fears. And a lot of times they get stuck. They're like, well, what do you mean? Like, I'm like, well, anything. It could be literally fear of asking a girl out. It could be fear of death. It could be fear of being in a social situation and looking awkward and looking like you're stupid. Like, it could be anything. So what are your fears today and in the past, and how do you deal with them?
I mean, some of my biggest fears, stuff that really scares me, one would be, suddenly, losing someone with no notice, right? Like someone in a car crash or whatever. Just losing someone that I really care about and love can be scary. Getting a phone call with terrible news is horrifying to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not terrified, but I have a general fear of being speaking in public and then, being the center of attention. I don't really like being the center of attention. I like to be in the background and just watch from above, I guess. Yeah, I mean, another fear.
So I'll ask you a question to that last one. How do you deal with that? The fear that you don't like speaking in public and being the center of attention, because there might be some experiences in your life where you are going to be public speaking and being the center of attention. So how do you overcome some of those worries?
Fake it till you make it. Just BS it, pretend like you're not scared. I remember we were at a charity event and they were coming around with a microphone and you raised your hand, you pointed at me, and you were like, you wanted me to speak in front of, it was like 1,000 people.
I remember.
And I was like, you better speak. And then eventually I did speak, and, it was fine. It was over in like 5 seconds, but I mean, you just gotta fake it till you make it like this. I mean, this is not something I would normally do, right? But I'm here, and, it'll be okay.
That's a great point. Fear a lot of times is in the mind before the event actually happens, and we put so much pressure on ourselves to perform, like, oh my God, what is everyone going to think? And it's like the fear occurs before the event actually occurs, So like even your first example of losing someone close to you suddenly in a tragic accident, that fear could happen before it happens, or maybe it never happens, but that's the experience and the fear that you're experiencing. And same thing, like the public speaking. I used to have a huge fear of public speaking. And I remember being at Employee Solutions in my early 20s. And like you just said, fake it till I make it. I just was sweating bullets up there. One time I went on CNBC and I did 2 shots of tequila before I went on. And it was 9:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Because I was so nervous. My palms were sweaty. I was like sweating. And I went on national television for Employee Solutions, and I was absolutely terrified. Mm-hmm. But, I got through it, and it just got a little bit easier,
Yeah, it's like with a lot of things in life, as soon as you start doing it and you're in the middle of it, you stop freaking out about all that stuff. And like when I would play basketball in middle school, I would be terrified before the games. And just because I wasn't great, and I would be scared to look bad, but then I'd be in the middle of the game, I wouldn't care.
Right. Yeah. The fear is definitely preemptive. And I love that acronym for fear, false evidence appearing real. Because for me, most of my fear is false evidence that does appear real to me, and like, I know, like talking about losing someone tragically, like I know, like after Grayson passed, like, and then you got, your health issues. Like, I know for me, I was going into like worst case scenario, like, oh my God, like, how the fuck is this going to happen? Like, how am I going to deal with this? Like, and it was like, it didn't happen. Like, you didn't die, but that's where my mind went, like worst case scenario.
That's where I went too. I remember praying in the hospital, being like, God, please don't let me die.
Yeah.
I want to live. And then eventually, it's funny, down the line, I was like, okay with dying.
Right.
In the hospital.
Well, the Buddhists say once you're okay with death and you accept it and you like embrace it, like all the other fears sort of take a back seat. Mm-hmm. And I believe that. Like once I'm like, hey, I'm okay with dying, then like I got cancer, I got Parkinson's or whatever the hell happens. Like, okay, well, that's just what that's where I'm at, It
is what it is.
It is what it is.
If someone takes a turn for the worst, do what you can to turn it around. If not, just try to be happy with it.
I love that saying. I use that quote you use all the time. It is what it is, because life is just happening, and it's not like I'm scripting it, or maybe I did before I was born in the soul world. But I am just living this life, and I don't get a choice. Mm-hmm. It's not like I can say, okay, I want this to happen, this to happen, this to happen. Well, my dad has actually a great quote, which, believe it or not, I'll use here on this podcast. But he says, how to make God laugh? Tell him your future plans.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
It's like, it's so true. It's like, that's why being in gratitude and embracing the present and the experience that we're having in life currently is just eases the anxiety, eases the fear, eases the worry, eases the future tripping. Because I'm really good at creating the wreckage of my future without even knowing what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I used to do that in business all the time. Like, oh my God, this thing's not going to work out. We're going to lose all our money. And people are like, well, how do you know that? I'm like, oh, I just feel it,
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm creating the wreckage of my future. And if I put enough energy into that thought, it might happen.
Yeah. I definitely thought that way too. Thinking about the worst case scenario and thinking about how it would just send my life down in a downward spiral. And it's always, even if stuff goes bad, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
It may not seem like it in bad situations, but it will be.
Yeah, like I remember they interviewed Nelson Mandela, and they're like, "How'd you deal with 28 years in prison in like literally solitude, like in a dark room with no floors? It was dirt floors." You know, they showed his prison after he got out, and it was like, I mean, talk about no human contact. And he's like, you know what? I'm so grateful that I went through that, because he goes, I truly got to know myself and God. And he's like, no one in their wildest mind can say that he was actually grateful, but he was grateful. And I sponsor a lot of guys that went to prison for a long time. And I would say 90% of them come out and they say they're grateful that they went to prison, because it humbled them. It made them realize what's important in life. It made them realize who they truly are, because before it was fear and ego running their lives.
Yeah.
And they just settle down, you know.
Plus, you get a lot of time to think.
Yeah. I forgot whose turn it is.
I think it's my turn.
Okay.
Okay. I have some answers for you, but I want to hear yours. Do you think you have any toxic traits you're not proud of?
But that's a question in the form of criticism and judgment, because I do have a lot of things that I want to improve on, but you know, I got to be careful not to say that like I'm not proud of, or like a shameful statement. But I would say the things I want to improve in my life are listening. I want to be a better listener, because I think listening lends itself to intimacy, trust, and vulnerability. So I want to be a better listener, and I'm trying that on a daily basis. I want to slow down more. You know, like I took a 25-minute nap this afternoon, and it was just unbelievable. A little cat nap.
Nice.
Both dogs laying on me. You know, so I would say slow down a little bit more. And that includes like being on the road. That includes like using my screen too much, my phone. Just slowing down and being where I am, being in the moment, because I tend to enjoy life more, and it's less anxious when I'm slower and not in a rush and not like having the mind overthink. Things I'm not proud of.
Like a toxic trait, you know, like like you leave your dirty clothes on the floor instead of in the hamper, or, you know, stuff like that. You know what mine is for you?
What?
You're incapable of making a proper reservation.
I'm not good at doing administrative tasks. That's for sure. That's for sure.
I mean, if he books a reservation, it's going to be 2 states over.
Yeah.
And
so a funny example is, because Bond's always giving me shit for this. I was in Orange County last week, and I was with my business partner, his wife, and actually both my business partners, and their one wife and one girlfriend, and my wife. And I booked on Open Table for a reservation at the Ranch, beautiful restaurant in Laguna Beach, golf course in the mountains. And I got there, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have you, sir." I'm like, well, "What do you mean you don't have me?" Like, here's my Open Table reservation. And then they look at it, and they're like, "Oh, okay, this is not this restaurant. This is the Ranch Saloon and Steakhouse in Anaheim and Disneyland." I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, it says that you're 22 miles away from the location." Thank God they felt bad for me and got me in, because I would have been really embarrassed. But I am not good at the details. Let's just put it that way. Mm-hmm. The other thing that came to mind when you just said that is stepping up in the house and doing more. Because I have a wife that wants to do it all, and she doesn't expect that much from me. Mm-hmm. So unless I step up, she literally will do 100%. Like, take the dogs out, feed the dogs, clean the house, do the laundry, take the trash down, like clean up the kitchen. She will do 100% of everything in the house if I don't step up. Yeah. And I could get real lazy and real like incapable of like performing and doing stuff around the house, which then I feel bad about. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's one area where I want to step in, because when I get on that couch, it's like, oh, don't bother me.
It's a comfy couch.
But I do want to like be an equal partner, even though she's younger, I want to be an equal partner and not have her be a caretaker and like do everything,
Yeah. I mean, she is always on the go doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couldn't be me. All right. I think it's your turn.
All right. Now they're getting a little bit more interesting here. How have you been dealing with grief? And we're talking about your brother pretty much. I mean, you could be other people that you've lost, but how have you been dealing with it? And what are some of the things you do to ease the pain and the sadness regarding that?
I mean, in the first couple months, I really didn't deal with it. I would try to block it out as much as I could, just not think about it, but that's not healthy and it's not sustainable. Just changing my mindset about death, afterlife, and in my relationship with it. When Grayson died, I was so scared that, this whole relationship's over. This person that, you're so close with your whole life, this relationship's just gone. And, I was wrong, obviously, because I dream all the time with Grayson. I have new memories of Grayson every couple days. And I just stopped feeling sad about them being gone and just being happy about them watching over me and grateful for the time I had with them and thinking of all the positive memories. And even just normal stuff like watching a TV show, I'll be like, Grayson would have loved this show.
Right.
I'll be laughing. I'll be like, I know he would have been dying laughing if he was right here next to me.
Right.
And so stuff like that, just changing my perspective on it was really what helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Therapy, talking with you and Mom, and then just spending quality family time with everyone.
Yeah. I mean, that's very well said. Very well said. And, I think keeping him and bringing him into our everyday life and experience, like you just said, watching the movie, like whenever I watch Will Ferrell, Jim Carrey, I just think, of Grayson and how much he loved Will Ferrell and Jim Carrey. So like, I'm like you, always bringing Grayson in. Like I saw this scuba diving thing the other day. I'm like, oh, Grayson would have loved to do that, So it's like keeping him part of the family always, And like I believe what you just said, what you believe is that he is still with us here in spirit. And, he is acutely aware of everything we're doing and saying and feeling, in spirit. And so I know it's not even a belief. I know he is still with us, And so that's a great answer. And yeah, I mean, there's no easy answer and there's definitely no right answer for that question. It's however each individual, takes it and deals with it. But I really appreciate your answer. That was excellent.
Yeah. I mean, those first months I thought I was handling it well. I would put on some photos on the TV and I would drink this whiskey called Brothers Bond, and Grayson had it in his apartment. And so I would start drinking that and then just looking at pictures of me and him, and then I'd be like, this is not good. Be waking up hungover. I'm like, I can't stop. I can't keep drinking.
I can't imagine if I was drinking during that experience. I don't know if I'd be here. All right, I think it's your turn.
Okay. Who do you look up to and why?
The first thing that comes to my mind when you said that is I look up to my higher self, which is what I consider that part of me that's God, the part of me that's my consciousness, my spirit, that part of me that's with Grayson as we speak right now. Because I believe that's God, that part of me that's eternal, that never dies, that is born in the beginning of the creation of energy and will continue forever, that lives inside of me, that I can connect to. That I look up to that part of me. So it's like I look at like it's my ego, my physical body and my ego, and then it's like my consciousness, my soul, my spirit, my God, whatever you want to call it, and they live together here. But I look up to that part of me that's eternal, non-mortal, and because that's what gives me relief of the pains of life, like we just talked about. But as far as a human being, Grammy's not going to like this, but I look up to Jesus a lot. You know, I read a lot about the teachings of Jesus through Emmett Fox, the Bible, stories. I mean, he really wasn't a preacher at all. He was just, I think, showing humanity how to have love. You know, like Grayson continues to show me forgiveness, love, and kindness that I got tattooed on me. That was like Jesus's motto, like forgive everybody. I mean, he was praying and forgiving the soldiers that were crucifying him on the day he was, you know, he was crucified and put on the cross. He was actually praying for them. And that one soldier ran away because he felt so much empathy and love from him. He like ran away, you know, that day. So like, I look up to Jesus and his teachings. As far as people I know, my friend Morris, I look up to because he teaches me not to take myself too seriously.
I love Morris.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just like a big kid, you know? And then little kids, you know, I look up to little kids because they show me how to play and be joyful in life and not take myself so seriously, not be so attached to outcomes and things. They're in the moment. You know, when you're 4 or 5, you're like in the moment. You're not thinking about next week, next month, next year. You're like in the moment playing. And I love that about the youth and like the children because it like shows me that's where life happens in the moment. But I spend a lot of time still in the future. You know, what's going to happen? Is this deal going to close? Is the relationship going to work out? Is, you know, blah, 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 you know. But I believe the joy and the experience of this human body and experience is happening in the moment. So I would say children and playfulness, you know, Jesus. I love the teachings of Buddha, of, you know, a lot of the Eastern philosophy. Anthony DeMello. I listen to a lot of Anthony DeMello, Sister Shivani, Peter Crone, Anita Mojari.
I was going to say Bernie Madoff.
Yeah. Yeah. I can identify with Bernie. I mean, greed is very addictive and it's very infectious. When you're around a lot of people with that energy and with that kind of greed, it does become like easy to grab onto and like, yeah, I'm going down that road. Thank God I hang around a lot of people today with high morals, ethics, and values. But the people I used to hang around with, maybe in my early 20s when I was drinking, like, I mean, they do anything to get ahead, to get more.
Yeah, so. I really love your friend group. I mean, I hang out with them all the time, especially when you play pickleball, and such a positive group of people who just really, you know, enjoy love and friendships and the positive things in life.
Yeah, they care about other people, not just themselves. And I think people that care only about themselves, it's a very narrow and shallow way to think and live. And to me, there's not a lot of freedom there. Very good question. Well, this is similar to what you've asked me, but in a different form. Where do you find joy in your life?
Where do I find joy in my life? Well, the first answer that comes to my mind are my cats, Blue and Maisie. I mean, they bring me so much joy, it's almost concerning. You know, they are just adorable. They're so cute. Blue is a ragdoll munchkin, so he's got like inch legs, and they're so cute. And then Maisie's this mama that we adopted, and they just bring me so much joy. And where else do I get joy? I mean, the basic stuff, you know, just like a sunny day, feeling the sun on my skin brings me a lot of joy. Like I remember earlier this year in the hospital, it was like a week that I was just inside this hospital room. I haven't felt the sun or, you know, breathed fresh air. And I went out on this balcony in the hospital and I was like, started crying because I felt the sun and I, you know, the air just felt so good. So basic stuff like that, and also food. I love food.
Yeah, you are a foodie. You are a foodie. And I love that you enjoy cooking and, eating, I wouldn't say healthy, but eating well, So
I try to keep it balanced.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that about you. And yeah, your cats are, I just think animals in general are like the secret sauce for humans to really enjoy life. Like I could literally be like, I don't want to go on anymore. I just can't do it. And then go home to my dogs and be like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit of love. Like Shay's nodding her head. Like, it's just unconditional, pure essence of love, And I watch Blue and Maisie with you and snuggle with you. And, it's like they're so proud and accepting of the love and giving the love, but also receiving the love too. It's like, it's just wonderful to watch. And, I think we all should be dogs and cats.
Yeah. I don't know where I would be if I didn't have dogs or cats in my life. Your dogs are so much fun. They're so cute.
Yeah. Of course, the trainer came today and the trainer's like, okay, you want to know the problem? And we're like, oh shit. They're like, it's not Niles, it's Daphne.
Yeah.
She's the bully.
She is, yeah.
She's the bully. She takes his food. She takes the toys out of his mouth. She gets mad at him when like Alex and I are arguing or something. Like she is the bully. And she goes, you gotta get her to relax. You got to get her to chill out. She goes, once she chills out, then Niles will fall in line. And this is like the dog whisperer, like a famous dog trainer in town.
Gotta believe him then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Daphne is.
And she goes, do you know why she plays fetch all day? And we're like, why? And she's like, because she has so much nervous energy. It's a distraction from being in the moment. Oh. It was almost like a psychology session. It's like she plays all day long because she doesn't want to just sit still and relax. It's like that. It's that nervous pent up energy.
Mm-hmm. I saw that in her when she was just a puppy. She would shiver when you pick her up.
Yeah, she was scared to death. Exactly. Yeah. So I forgot the question. Where you have joy in your life.
What brings me joy? Yeah. My pets, just the basic stuff.
Pickleball?
Pickleball, definitely. I love playing every week with our friend group. It's so positive. And there's fun trash talking. It never gets too serious though. And just, I don't love all the flashy materialistic stuff. That doesn't make me happy. Real quality time with people is what really brings me joy. Like playing some board games with the cousins when they come over or whatever it is. That's what's really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. You're light years ahead of your age, that's for sure.
I still enjoy nice things. Don't get me wrong. But yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. This one's a deep one.
Uh-oh.
All right. What do you believe the purpose of life is?
Boy, this is actually similar to my last question to you, so we could have a conversation. I believe the purpose of life is for me to experience very difficult, hard things in a human body and to accept them, to embrace them, and to move past them. So there's no question that your mom and I we both believe this. We're put into this body in this family unit in this circumstance to overcome the death of a child at a young age. There's no question that we both believe that, and how that takes a turn for life, how it just changes your life like abruptly. And we're supposed to be here, and I believe I'm supposed to give back. So since that happened with Gray and with us, I have embraced and become friends with probably about 14 or 15 other people that have lost their children at a very young age. In fact, I did yoga with one today, Mary, who's probably in her 60s, and her son took his life about 2 years ago, and we've become very close, very close. I send her videos, she sends me videos, we talk, and there's a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of I'm okay, the sense that I can get through this. There's a sense, it's like AA. It's like I couldn't get sober by myself, but I can get sober with a group, that has a similar issue. And it's the same thing like with this, like with grieving, like, I didn't want to like sign up, 3 years ago, I wasn't thinking, okay, I'm going to be this master in grief and, helping people in grief. Like I didn't fucking want that for the life of me, but here I am and I don't have a choice. I can't change it. My ego keeps telling me I can change it. It's like, well, just get Gray into, rehab, just get him to do this, get him to do that. Like I can't, that game's over, even though my ego keeps going back there. But now it's like, how can I help other people, which really is going to help me? So the more I talk to Mary, I got my buddy Otis in Atlanta. His son was murdered at 27, and he's really, really a hot mess. And we talk for an hour, and we both feel better. We talk about how we miss our sons. We talk about memories, and we also talk about things that help us get out of it. And a lot of it's my belief in God, which I believe is in all of us. And like you talked about earlier, it's like I do believe Grayson's still here with us and part of our life. And I know when I transition, there's no question he's going to be the first person, that I see. That first energy is going to be him. So I think it's community. I think it's a belief in God. But I think the purpose of me being here in general is to find out who I truly am. And to find out when that's kind of, it's kind of like this fancy word and no one really knows what does that mean. To find out who I truly am is not just the ego and the body, that there is this eternal part of me that is here to help, to love, to forgive, to embrace, and to like be selfless. And it's really the tattoo Grayson get me. And believe me, this is not a tattoo I chose. It came to me in so many dreams and so many meditations, and like Grayson literally imprinted that in my brain and in my skin. It's like, this is your tattoo, Dad. Forgiveness, love, and kindness. And he keeps telling me it's to other people, but it's to yourself. Forgive yourself, love yourself, be kind to yourself, and do that to others. So I believe that's one of my purposes here is to live by that motto. And to go through the hard things in life. I mean, look, it's easy to go through the things in life that always go my way. Made a lot of money on that deal. Everyone's listening to me. The kids are listening to me. Everything's perfect. When everything goes my way, I don't think that's the purpose of me being here. I think the purpose of me being here is to go through the hard things, the divorce, losing a son at a young age, health issues, losing my best friend, Ron Ham, like going through trials and tribulations of life, I believe is why I'm in this particular life at this particular instance, and I've had other lives where I've had to deal with other things, but this is the life where I had to deal with so far. The breakup of a 22-year marriage or 23-year marriage and losing a son at a young age are the two big things, and plenty other trials and tribulations. But I think it's to embrace the hard stuff and to get into acceptance and to help others.
Great answer. I really like that.
And yours is not too dissimilar if you kind of look at it in that way. Is what does your belief in God look like to you, and how do you experience that?
That's a great question, and I'm not totally sure I even have a full answer. What I can say is that I do believe in God. I don't think he's some white robe with a long beard watching Netflix up there, but I think it's more of a it's more of a relationship between you and whatever you make it. And for me, my God and and I have this relationship. I do what I believe is right. I pray. I give my gratitude. And I really just think of it as like as you were talking about earlier, as the better part of yourself, as the best person you could imagine as you could possibly be. Like that's who I think God would be. Mm-hmm. And I also believe in, this collective consciousness idea. We all come from the same matter. It's not crazy to think that we're all, not from the same thing.
No question. I mean, we're all from, literally, our energy is like from the same energy that came out of the Big Bang. It's like, it's all energy. And when I do psychedelics, that's the first thing I see when I come out of it. It's like, we're just all energy. Mm-hmm. We think that we're this ego and this mind. That's what like our ego tells us, but we're really just all this energy,
Yeah. I mean, over the past couple years, with Grayson and everything, that kind of developed my relationship with God. Before I was kind of, I would pawn it off, like, oh yeah, I was raised Jewish, Jewish, whatever. But now it's, still Jewish, but I have a more personalized concept of God and how I choose to keep moving through that in my life and how I use him as a tool.
Yeah. And that reminds me of like how I use God. And it's like when I feel like I need love and comfort and like a warm blanket, like that's my time to use God and connect with God and talk to God and ask God. And, my God today is blended with my higher self and Grayson now. So like when I pray and I meditate, like it's literally my higher self, Grayson, and God all together. Like we're like a blended family now.
One big trifecta.
Mm-hmm. One big trifecta for those sports fans. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's a good answer. And I'm 56, and I can tell you my evolution of my belief in God and how that looks and how it feels and how I experience that has definitely changed on the journey. And life is the journey. There is no destination. It is just the journey of experiences in the here and now. And there's no tomorrow. There's no yesterday. It's just here. And it's like one of my favorite spiritual teachers, another one that I forgot to mention is Bashar. His name's Bashar. And he's like, the time is always now. So when people ask you what time it is, it's not 9:10, it's not 12:30, it's not 9 o'clock, it's now. And then you ask that same question in 20 minutes. What time is it? Well, it's now. Like the time is always now. Mm-hmm. So it's so easy to get stuck in the yesterday and the tomorrow. But it's like you have a lot of nows. And then before you know it, you're like 80, 90 years old and like there's no more nows.
Yeah. It's easy to get caught up with the worries of the future. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to remind myself a lot to stay in the present and enjoy what's, around me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to another celebration of life today, right after this. And it's like I continue to get reminded that this is just a temporary journey and stop along the way of this incredible path of eternity, So not, again, like Morris says, not to take yourself so seriously, play, have fun, be that little kid, I mean, I talk to Morris all the time. He's always like sending me stuff. And it's like, he's always reminding me like, just relax, have fun, play.
Stop taking everything so seriously.
Yeah.
God, I wish I had known that years ago.
Yeah. Well, we all get to the place where we get to more comfort and more peace. But it's not a straight road. It's definitely a bumpy road for sure. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm proud of you. I'm very, very glad you came on. And I know our relationship is growing, and I'm super grateful to be your dad, your friend, and to work with you as well. So I'm a proud papa.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'm so grateful to be your son. Couldn't imagine a better dad.
Thank you. Even with all the dad jokes, I appreciate that. Him and Grayson wrote the book of the dad jokes.
I mean, giving you shit is just, it's like it's like a second job.
Yeah. You got to take the load for Gray too. So.
It's all with love. It's all with love.
I mean, we say in AA, like if you aren't giving banter out, you're not showing love, So I completely agree and appreciate that. So thanks for coming on. Please give us feedback, give us suggestions, and we'll be back next week. I think Blake will be back. And if you have any questions or comments, use social media. Find us on all the podcast outlets. And we are on YouTube, so please view us on YouTube, subscribe. And we will see you next week on the laundry list.